you so much for speaking to me. This is such a different show, and I love the concept. Now, as an actor, it kind of feels like you're playing three different parts, but it's all the same person. So, can you explain kind of the journey that is Eric Payne, or the journeys?
The journey is indeed. Thank you for having me. And secondly, nice hat. I really like that. It's dope.
Thank you.
The journeys of Eric. Wow. So we get to see, and I'm really thankful that the creators. I'm gonna slide it back for a second, but
Mhm.
I'm really thankful the creators took upon themselves to build up Joe's basis prior to building up every other characters. In a technical side, it helps the audience understand what we're going through, what they need to be looking out for, and understanding just the structure of this story in general. So a lot of the backbone is built off of that, and you start to understand that Joe and Eric have had this relationship since they were in kindergarten. But from that place, you really start to spin off into our own individual stories. And Eric comes from, a single family home. His father basically raised him. His mother has been away often, for good reason. I don't want to give too much away. Um, and he has developed a love of cooking early on in his life. His father was an incredible cook. Um, in college and high school, he was super close with Joe's family. They were a pinnacle in his life and taking care of him and, picking him up after school, small things like that. So it was just feeding him on weekly routes. And so that has kind of continued into his adult life. Eric comes through and gets some food whenever he needs. But I think also uses them as a family kind of basis too in that realm or in that reality. Once we start to break off and see these different existences play out is where it all gets kind of fun and complicated. In one realm, I'm married to one of Joe's wives. In another, right, to Amy. In another world, I'm single and just had a child and looking for that kind of love commitment or that relationship. In another realm, I'm married and expecting a child, and it's where Joe and I are the closest that we ever have been.
Mhm.
You really get to see why and how career, relationships, environment, experience all play such an insanely important part on who we are. Your matter, your basis only does what your parents have given you. Thankfully, it gives you so much, but the molding and the kind of creation of the clay form of you only comes with the outside hands of so many other things.
Right. So, are you the kind of actor who does the background work and has the journals? So, because of that, and you're approaching, they're separate characters, but they're kind of all the same. Do you approach them differently?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And as much as like I will get lost in the journals and the like the planning and the routing of everything. I have to like remind myself to throw it all away before I walk in and like let it go, because there's a freedom element that will be lost unless you receive what is being played with. So every time I walk in there with this background and stuff, Jimmy and I will start talking about how we get so lost in having fun in the scene that we forget what we're doing and what we're based around everything. And am I playing this guy? Am I playing that guy? Am I going? Oh my god, shit. Um, it's helpful to have the other actors to like kind of keep you in cue, I will say. Um, but it's still complicated. I mean, the tools of like hair and makeup and clothing are a huge connection point for
Right.
myself. From a physical place in, all of us have had different routes in exploring it, but my physical nature of like playing the pizza Eric, as I call him, which is in Cop Joe world, because I'm always hunched over in a hot pizza, I'm sweating, I'm working in Brooklyn. It's kind of like a mom and pop kind of spot. I feel like I'm living this world a little more, and like I am a little more like gritty and like, yo, Joe, what the I can call him out in a different kind of way. In my other existence, I'm a high caliber chef, making money, trying to live in a world that is not my existence and prove something of myself. And I have a power over Joe, and that is explored in an entirely different way. The I guess the tools that we use to key in fluctuate is all that I'm getting to. Oh, I lost it.
So, which one do you say the most complicated?
I lost it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, I can hear now. Yeah.
Okay. Which character would you say would be the most complicated to tell?
Oh, I can hear now.
Yes. Okay. Which character would you say was the most complicated to tackle?
Ooh, ooh. Well, I don't know how many names y'all know because we all have our own secret names for our characters. But single dad Eric, which is actually in music show world, is the most challenging for me. Mainly because our relationship between me and Joe, and I have no significant other in that existence. I feel very aloof and very like I don't know where I am or what I'm doing in this world. Strangely, it relates to where the character is actually living to. So I think that it's a little on the nose, but I think that has a lot to do with it, and it's helpful to actually play into that existence too, because I'm like, oh great, that's how I feel. Let's do it. But it has been one of the most challenging ones because I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know who I was going to be. And so there's not a lot to root into.
Would you say the character of Eric is affected by Joe's decisions, or is it just the environment and how that affects him or the different versions of him?
Entirely the environment. I don't want to get it twisted that it's, somehow all of our worlds base off of Joe. I think in a technical sense, it's helpful that the story focuses on him in the beginning. But we really start to see how, Eric's parents have played an immense part on his existence. And his own relationships and his own, pushing of himself has led him to being a different kind of chef, a different kind of friend, a different kind of father, a different kind of lover in all of the realms. It's as we learn, you know what I mean, in human nature, in human life, for people, we all are kind of our own captains, and you can allow people to control that that ship that you drive, or you can take the reins, and Eric is one of those people who has a grip on his reins.
Okay. So, being that he is the kind of person who, would you say he is secure in his identity or identities either
uh
way, or does that change?
no, no. I don't want to sound like it's an oxymoron, but I think that's also kind of true of people. Like, you can present yourself as the most confident and secure human being ever, and really you're like butter inside. I know I met plenty of people. I know myself, sometimes people are like, wow, you look so confident. I'm like, I'm shaking in my boots right now. So I know, I think he is, you get to really kind of see it in the world where his career is at the top of his game. He's frantic sometimes, and not as much as he has a confidence in his own existence in that reality. I think as a chef and as a person, he's a little unsure of what he has to do next to prove himself all the time. Living with that kind of pressure makes a different kind of person. So it's like, another kind of existence, but basing it off of Joe, there's one realm where he follows love. He expects that he's going to follow the love of his life, and he's going to live the world's, greatest love tale. And we enter back into the pilot where they're getting divorced, and it's like, that is the oxymoron of life in general. It's going to put challenges, no matter what you think you're going into, it will challenge you to make you a bigger, stronger, better, more aware. I don't want to sound like it's just strength, but I think it's a different kind of social and conscious understanding.
Right. So, also one of the things that was fascinating was one of the Erics. You're married to your best friend's wife, and we kind of see how that changes the relationship between the two. Would you say that I don't know that Joe's react? He's more of the reactionary part of what can influence others, or is it a direct decision that's made by yourself, or Eric's self?
It is entirely a direct decision and made by myself. I will say from the start. And in that world, it, I'm just married to my wife. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he can try and go talk to her the day that I said you should go talk to that girl because she's beautiful and amazing, and he decided to go hang out with his family. So sleep on you, bro. I'm going in, and the world is like we just end up together. I think if we get lost in our own kind of what if moments, and as people, if we get lost in the like, oh man, if I'd gone that way, I could have done this and I could have done this. If you're hindered by it and you're not living your own existence, if you're not enjoying your own wife or your own husband or your own partner in general, then you're the problem. You know what I mean? Like you have the choice to live it in the best ways possible. And so I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but it's like Joe doesn't think that that was his wife at any point in that world.
Right.
This is my wife. She is my wife. That's the other thing. She's a human being. Her name is Amy. She's a beautiful. So, I hate to think it's. We start talking about it just to break it down into like the scope of the show, but I'm like, this isn't ownership. She's also. You'll realize off of her character, she's a person that lifts anyone she's around up. Every time a person is married to Amy, or anytime they're interested in talking to her, they somehow start to see life better. If things start happening in a more positive way. And that's her human nature. My human nature is to push. But really, that pushing point, I am the initiator of my existence. And Joe definitely is more of a passive uh, explorer, even in the places where he has power. Even when he is the celebrity musician and you think that he had everything at his fingertips, you start to see it's hard for him to make his own choices because they've been made for him all of his life.
Right.
It's
So
just
this,
morons are fascinating to me. I'm so excited to see the layers of like, you thought it was this, but like, bam, sorry.
can you say, is there something about Eric that is remain consistent, that will not change throughout these journeys?
Yes, I think his playfulness, his love of life, as dry as he can become and direct, he has an innate desire to be there. Not always make things better, but to be there when he's needed and to help out when it is required. And he tries to be there as much as he can. He's not able to because obviously there are challenges just in our own faults as well, and stuff surrounding circumstances as people of color often know. You know what I mean? As anyone living in a marginalized group should or can relate to. I kind of just blanked on the question.
I was talking about the consistent what remains consistent.
I blanked because I've been using this like idea all day, so I'm getting, I think, kind of tired of it, and I know anyone who's listening is sick of it as well. But I think of each one of the characters as a seed, and like our person is the seed. From that seed branches out 4 or 5 different sprouts of vines, and one of the vines goes and grows up on the side of a house, another one down to like a creek bed, another one over to the highway, and a one up the side of a tree into a forest. Each one of those vines are the same structure. They are the same seed. They are the same person, but their challenges, their environment, their existence in that environment, and their fighting for food and life and light all make them live a different kind of existence. I know that's the key word for me today, but that is how I think about each one of these characters, that they are actually core at the same, and that all those things can play a difference, but he is still a fun-loving guy. He is still trying to be a better person in every existence, and he still cares deeply about his family and his friends. How he lives through that existence is always different with the different colors, the different strokes.
You also talked about how the backstory, but you get on set and everything just seems you're excited to face and play with it. His particular journey seems to be more
Ooh.
freedom as an actor?
I might have to have you repeat that one because it all broke up.
Can you hear me? Oh, I'm so sorry. I was saying, you have the most creative freedom.
Which character had the most freedom?
Can you hear me?
Oh, Zoom. Are you failing on me?
Yeah, was there a scene or a particular Eric that had the most freedom?
Oh, okay. Got
Ah,
it. I got it. I got it. Um, I I heard it playback. I think this one's a challenge for me because there's a lot that I really want to explore within this Eric too. But Pizza Eric, which I've been talking a little bit about, lives in Cop Joe world. So we've again been best friends for years. Joe is a cop. His father was a cop. He lost his father in 9/11. His father also was a huge influence on my life. Now, having the world that we've lived through, and we're starting post COVID, after in this kind of existence where everything's kind of stopped. I imagine that we've lived through BLM as well, and through this movement and this kind of policing and social injustice conversation. I really, really, really want to see those reflections in that realm. I really want to start exploring it, and we haven't breached it as much as we should. But I know that NBC is speaking to me and willing to kind of explore. So hopefully it comes. But that being said, I really love their relationship in that realm. And I think it has lots of opportunities just based off of that conversation to really explore what those dynamics can be. But already for Jimmy and I, it is our most playful, it is the most fun, free living. Like it is the best existence. We get to have big ziti nights where we have great pasta. What more could you ask for? I'm married to Mallory in that world, who's an incredible actress from Atlanta named Gabrielle, and she's having a baby, so we get to play along with her fake silicone stomach. It's a fun time.
is it well being on this set of show and looking at the scripts? Is there a moment where it kind of hits at home where you're kind of like, what if? Because it's such a universal topic.
Oh, I feel like you're not living if you haven't asked that question to yourself at some point. I know you aren't challenging yourself if you aren't. I've been saying it a lot today. I was adopted at birth, and it's a huge what if for me, and not from a place to take away from my parents. They are my parents, the end all and be all. But if I hadn't been adopted, if I had been raised by my birth family, who I have been in contact with as well now, it's always, if not, for all of them too, a what if. Yeah. I think if you're not exploring them, you are not living up to all the possibilities of your life. You have to ask what if at some point. And if you feel like you are need something more, and and the challenges standing in that way are not life altering or debilitating, sometimes they are, and sometimes you got to take those risks, honestly too. But then ride it out, try it, give it a go, because what else do we have to lose?
Right.
Yeah.
If you had the opportunity to create another Eric and his timeline, where would you see him?
Ooh, nobody's asked me that. That's fun. I want to see the Eric that's the most powerful. No, that's not even, no. I want to see the Eric that didn't have a relationship with Joe for all of these years, because it's one realm that we won't be exploring. The one that moved away for 20 years plus, and he's coming back to live in this community that he hasn't been in. And how does that play? How does that play out? And how do you fit back into your world that you've been away from for so far, and find, friends when you've lost, maybe your career or people, or God knows, with everything that's been going on in the world, I'm sure a lot of people have been in that experience of having to move back when they never thought that they would. So I kind of would like to explore that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking to me. Sorry for the weird connection, but show is so unique and I love it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And sorry for, in this new day and age, it could be my computer, so do not apologize. It's connections.
Yes. So